In 1945, hundreds of Japanese soldiers entered the swamps of Ramree Island. By dawn, most had vanished. British troops reported screams in the night, gunfire echoing through the mangroves, and bodies dragged beneath the water by giant crocodiles. Some call it the deadliest animal attack in history, a nightmare written in blood and mud. And today, you'll see why some believe it was hell on earth. Ramree Island lies off the coast of Burma, modern-day Myanmar. In 1945, it was no paradise. Dense jungle choked the land, its sweltering heat suffocating. But what made Ramree infamous were the mangrove swamps, miles of twisting channels, knee to waist-deep mud and water so dark it seemed to swallow light. Here, survival itself was already a gamble. The air buzzed with mosquitoes carrying malaria, clouds thick enough to choke a man, snakes coiled unseen among the roots, striking without warning. Leeches clung to every scratch, draining blood drop by drop. The swamp never stopped attacking, and beneath the surface, almost invisible until too late, lurked saltwater crocodiles, the largest reptiles alive, relics of an ancient world. For the British and Japanese armies, this was no ordinary battlefield. It was a place where the very environment conspired against them, turning every step into a new form of torment. By January 1945, the Allies pressed to retake Burma. Ramree was strategically vital. Whoever controlled it controlled the Bay of Bengal. Naval guns hammered the island, infantry stormed through jungle outposts. The Japanese resisted fiercely, but they were outnumbered, cut off, starving, and already sick with malaria. When their defenses finally collapsed, the survivors faced a brutal choice: surrender, unthinkable shame in their code, or retreat through the mangroves, a place so feared no enemy would follow. They chose the swamp, and in doing so, they walked into one of the most terrifying war stories ever told. The retreat began in chaos. Shells erupted behind them, trees shattered, bullets hissed through the canopy. The Japanese soldiers were already half dead, starving after weeks without rations, weakened by disease, lips cracked from thirst. But still, they carried rifles, dragged the wounded, and stumbled into the mangroves. Immediately, the swamp turned on them. The mud clutched at their legs like quicksand. Every step felt like being dragged under. Roots twisted into traps, forcing them to crawl through narrow, suffocating channels. Clouds of mosquitoes swarmed, biting relentlessly. Leeches clung to ankles, swelling with blood. Snakes dropped from branches into the water. The air reeked of rot and stagnant death. And then, the swamp seemed to come alive. Ripples spread without cause. Massive shadows shifted beneath the black water. Soldiers whispered, trying not to splash, but the silence was worse than noise. Some caught glimpses, pairs of glowing eyes just above the surface, motionless except for the slow drift of water. Saltwater crocodiles, giants, some over 20 feet long, weighing more than a ton. Apex predators, waiting with terrifying patience, their jaws strong enough to crush bone. Dozens, maybe hundreds, watched from the channels. For starving, bleeding men, the swamp was already torture. But now, every movement, every stumble, every drop of blood carried a price. The soldiers knew it. If the swamp didn't kill them, the crocodiles would. Darkness in the mangroves was absolute. The moonlight couldn't pierce the canopy. Soldiers stumbled blindly, clutching each other in the waist-deep water. The only sounds were their labored breathing, the buzzing of insects, and then the sudden crash of water breaking open. From the British perimeter, stationed just beyond the swamp, troops reported hearing something unlike anything they had ever experienced in war. Screams. Not battle cries, not the shouts of men under gunfire, screams of terror, wet thrashing sounds, the crack of jaws, the muffled gurgle of men dragged under. The crocodiles struck without warning. They lunged from below, clamping their jaws around legs, torsos, even heads. With terrifying strength, they spun their prey in death rolls, snapping bones and pulling men beneath the surface. Soldiers fired blindly into the dark. Muzzle flashes lit brief, horrifying images. Men wrestling with giant reptiles, water turning to chaos. But the swamp swallowed the noise. Gunfire was muffled by the dense roots. Bullets vanished into mud. Some men tried to climb the trees. In their exhaustion, they slipped and fell back into the water. Others swung bayonets wildly, stabbing at shadows that weren't there. The British troops, listening from dry land, were frozen. One eyewitness later recalled, "That night was the most horrible that any member of the Marine detachment had ever experienced. The scattered rifle shots in the pitch-black swamp mingled with the screams of wounded men, crushed in the jaws of the great reptiles and the blood-curdling cries of the crocodiles." Hours passed. The attacks didn't stop. And by dawn, silence settled over the swamp. Hundreds had gone in, almost none came out. But did it really happen this way? Or is this where history becomes legend? So how many soldiers actually died that night? The legend claims nearly 500 Japanese troops were devoured in a single night. Guinness once called it the greatest massacre by animals in history. Newspapers printed it. Survival guides warned of it. For decades, it was told as fact. But modern historians urge caution. Crocodiles are killers, yes, but not mindless slaughter machines. They hunt by ambush, not frenzy. Could hundreds really vanish in one night? Disease, starvation, exhaustion, even British bullets may have taken many before the reptiles struck. By the time the soldiers entered the swamp, most were already too weak to survive. And yet, dismissing the crocodile attacks entirely doesn't work either. Saltwater crocodiles are the largest reptiles alive. They are opportunists, and when prey stumbles into their territory, they strike. History records cases where dozens have died to a single group. At Ramree, hundreds of wounded men stumbled straight into their feeding ground. So what's the truth? Were hundreds dragged under, or only dozens? Did the story grow with every retelling? British soldiers exaggerating, journalists chasing headlines, propaganda fueling fear? Or did the survivors truly hear what they swore they did? Screams, thrashing, the sound of men crushed in the jaws of monsters? Maybe the truth lies somewhere between. But sometimes legends are stronger than numbers. Because whether it was 500 or 50, the Ramree story endures, etched into history as the night humans became prey. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in for more wildlife stories.